Many people say that they want to write a book, yet 9 out of every 10 people who start writing a book never finish it, leaving one of their biggest dreams unfulfilled. So, what is it about the 1 in 10 people who do finish writing their book? What do they have, and what drives them to complete their books, their plays, and their songs? Welcome to the Editor's Desk, where we explore their writing experiences, their motivations, and their struggles. And now, here are your hosts, author, writing coach, and self-publishing guide, Lynn Everard, and author, Louise Gomez. Good evening from almost sunny South Florida.
I was going to say, it's not sunny today.
It's not sunny today. You're watching the Editor's Desk, and my name is Lynn Everard.
Hi, everybody. Louise Gomez. And have a special guest today that we're excited to talk about.
Absolutely. Louise, you know that old saying that says what you don't know can't hurt you?
Yeah. Do you have a revised edition of
Well,
it?
I think as we talk about the book that our guest is going to share,
yeah.
There's things that are happening in our world that we don't know, but they're still hurting all of us.
I agree. I mean, this book, Stuck in Traffic by Frank Ruffalo, I'm almost complete with it. And it hit me like a ton of bricks in the sense where precisely what you're saying, most people don't know what's going on about human trafficking. Most people have no clue, and it's hurting all of us. And it really is. And you know, I am an advocate for children. I sit on the board of directors for Kizuna CPR, Child Parent Reunion. I've lobbied in DC. Mm-hmm. I actually was there when they finally passed House Resolution 3212, which is International Child Abduction Prevention. And I've worked with my brother for years. He's actually gotten The Hague approved in Japan through his tireless work. And so this is something that is near and dear to me. And this book, we're going to have to introduce Frank so he can tell us and answer a lot of questions that we have, because
Yes.
I know this is something that is also near and dear to your heart. We've spoken about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, as a survivor of abuse and someone who works with survivors of abuse, this book has hit me really hard.
Yeah, it has hit me really hard. So let's introduce Frank Ruffalo. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, you know, I know you've written a lot of books, but this one we really want to talk about, Stuck in Traffic. It has really impacted me. First of all, it's right here written, the story base is right here in Florida, so I kind of feel like, okay, did this happen? Is this real? Is this, like, where did this info come from? Is it intel? Is it just information that you share with us? Like the storyline.
The book was written sort of backwards.
Okay.
I wrote the screenplay first. The screenplay was, my co-writer in the screenplay did all the legwork to get all the information. She did all her interviews and got the information from people who actually escaped the trafficking situation. And the book is a fictionalized account of what actually happens to people that get caught in human trafficking. And 9 times out of 10 that you never see them again.
Wow.
There's a number on the back of the book that you share about how many people are stuck in traffic right now.
28 million in the world are stuck in trafficking, and the United States is the largest market for this scourge on society.
I mean, 28 million,
That's a lot.
That's hard to wrap your brain around.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
if you think the population of Florida is only 13 million, so you're looking at 2 Floridas
Wow.
are stuck in trafficking. And trafficking does not just include, a lot of people think human trafficking, well, you know, they grab people to have for sex. It's not just sex. It's the old time forced labor.
Yep.
It's of course sex. It's for ritual sacrifices. It's which is very hard to believe. And it's for, and the second most is for organ harvesting.
Yes. When I read that in here, I was like, wow, I heard of that, but it's not something that's ever on mainstream media news. So it's like we hear it from like underground news or Telegram, or we hear it, you know, from other ways of getting information, because none of this is ever going to be on mainstream media. So it takes people like you to raise awareness. And so everybody gets to read this, so they know what is going on in the world. So
They should read the book just to let them, just so they truly know and realize what human trafficking entails. It's not just taking money from people and taking them across the border. That's a very small part of it. They prey on the innocents and the unknowledgeable to fill the need. It's basically money driven. Fill the need for money driven, for the people that want that type of release.
And if I'm not mistaken, I know part of this in the story, a family in, let's say, somewhere in Asia, they decided they were going to let their child go, do they really believe that their child is going to work in an honorable profession and send the money home?
They are fooled
Okay.
to think that, you know, United States streets are paved with gold. You can go there, you can make your own, you know, you get a job, make something of yourself. So they prey on those people that are in
Yeah.
unfortunate circumstances that want to give hope to maybe a younger person or their family or something like that. And they actually pay these people,
Yeah.
and they put their children in situations where they think they're going to end up with a job. Sometimes they get a job, but it's forced labor,
Sure.
where they're stuck
Yeah.
doing, you know, they're stuck being, you know, either picking fruit or working for somebody, you know, like, you know, and they're in horrible conditions and they can't get away. It's almost like indentured servant. And then some of them are just taken for sex trafficking or organ harvesting. You never see them again.
Wow.
So Frank, what drew you into the story? What drew you into being part of the writing the novel? Because work like this is not something people do as a hobby,
Yeah.
No.
right? This has to come from the heart, or it doesn't come from anywhere.
No.
So what drew you into this?
Well, my coworker at the time, and my friend, was very passionate and wanted to get the word out on human trafficking. So she wanted to do a movie. She was hoping to get Ashton Kutcher involved because he's very into exposing human trafficking.
Yeah.
And she had writer's block. She had stuck. She had started a story that just was stuck in the middle. She didn't like the way it began. Didn't like the way it was going. Didn't like where she was. She knew I was a writer and author and screenwriter. So she contacted me. She said, "Listen, I need help with this screenplay. Can you do anything with it?" So I read the screenplay and got back to her and said, "Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's very slow. The beginning is dead. There's no spark. Let me see if I can fix
Spruce
it,
it.
change it up." I got so involved with the story that she started to create. Like I always say, the voices in my head
Yep.
created a whole background expansion of the characters. I finished the screenplay, gave it to her, started writing the novel based on the screenplay. Fortunately, within 5 months after being diagnosed with breast cancer, she passed away. So
Sorry
the
about
screenplay sort of went away. And about a year or so after that, co-writer friend of mine, we got together and I said, we need to resurrect this. We resurrected it. We had some people interested. We signed this contract to have somebody shop this screenplay out to see if there was any interest. That's still ongoing. We're now working with a producer and an assistant who really likes it and wants to get the story done. So we're in a rewrite phase right now, and that's where we are. We're with the book.
That's amazing. There's so many. I know Lynn is affiliated with a lot of different organizations of people who want to share their story, and they want these things to be known because they have actually been able to escape, or to somehow, I don't know if escape is the right word, or leave that that life that they had.
Escape is the right word.
Yeah, so there's just so many, it's really about raising awareness, because like I was saying, when I was going to DC, Senator Chris Smith is champion for human rights for children throughout the world. And no, from my experience, he knows all the stories, but a lot of times they say their hands are tied. You know, I know, like, for example, in Brazil, one of the children from a famous case from David Goldman, they finally, Senator Lautenberg was able to implement sanctions. Within a day, they returned the child. So it takes a type of dedication, enforcement for people to really enforce things, sanctions, or, you know, hit them where it hurts, right? In the pocketbook.
But the main problem is the human trafficking industry generates a lot of dollars,
Yeah.
black market dollars.
Oh, yeah.
And that black market dollar finds its way into pockets of people that's supposed to be for our interest and not against our interest. So a lot of times, a lot of words are said,
Yeah.
but a lot of deeds are not done.
Right. They say one thing and unfortunately don't comply with what they're saying. You know, and the other thing is, some of these people who escape, to bring them back into society, what type of, like, a trauma they have experienced, and a whole new type of, I don't know, reprogramming would be necessary. Like, there needs to be a whole system in place.
Sure, because there's a stigma on a lot of these people that they don't want to say anything.
Right.
I mean, would you?
No.
I mean, if you
of
were
course.
stuck, when you were stuck in doing some of that, and then you finally escaped and you started making a life for yourself, I'm sure you wouldn't want to go out and publicize that all over the world and saying, look, this is
No,
what I
of
was, or
course.
this is what happened to me.
No, I get
It's something that needs, like you said, it needs work. Those people need to be,
There does seem to be a growing number of people who are survivors of abuse who are coming forward and sharing their story.
and that needs to be done.
And it's really, to me, it's jumped so much in the last 6 to 8 months, because they realize that what do they have to lose, right? And what they feared losing in the past, they don't fear losing anymore. And that really makes people very powerful. And so, you know, books like yours and the movie when it comes out, these are things that people need to see, that they need to know about. You know, it's so easy to convince yourself that everything is wonderful, and the house with the white picket fence and all of that stuff. But underneath that, there is so much more, and so many people who don't have any chance of experiencing that at all. So, to me, this book covers so many different aspects of trafficking. Mm-hmm. It's really amazing. You know, how did you weave it all together? Because you move from one thing to the next, and there's these ongoing stories, but there's stories within the story.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess about 10 years of writing, I guess, helps me, I write in 3 different genres, so being a writer helps me do that. It was just the fascination of the story, and how many, what you would classify as good people in society were not good people. And they put forth a fake front to hide what they were actually doing. So I had to weave that into the story to make it more believable, I would guess, even though it's an unbelievable story. So it's,
Yeah, you did a great job at that.
thank you.
Especially when I was reading the part about the organ harvesting, how they were doing that with the specific candidates. I was to me, I never thought of that until I read it, and I said, well, that makes sense why people would do that. But it's just
It's a black market. I mean, there's a black market for everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
people don't want to, if you go on a regular organ harvesting, if you need an organ and go on a list, it could take months and months and months. You may not ever
Right.
get
right.
what you need. So, supply, it's capitalism at its worst, supply and demand. Give us the money and we can supply you what you need. Unfortunately, the people don't ask where they're getting it from.
Wow.
But-
One of the things that I saw in the book that really brought the realism into it was the idea that some of the people that we would call the pillars of the community
Yeah,
are actually using that status
Yeah.
to hide what they're doing.
yeah.
And because who would question a rabbi or a priest or a
Judge.
minister?
Right.
Or a district
Right.
attorney or police officer.
Yes, people who we're taught to respect them. We're taught to honor them. We're taught, and then they violate that.
Right.
By-
It's the perfect cover.
Right.
Exactly.
And this is happening. I mean, people may read the book and say, well, he made a story. That doesn't really happen. Yeah, well, wake up, people.
Yes. Wake up.
This is really
yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
My favorite saying is, this generation is the dumbest generation since Noah.
Wow.
So,
Well, we've part of our mission for the show is to, help people to read and write
Yeah.
and get out of their phones. Get off of their screens and experience life for real, like not just in what you can see on that little light that's in front of
Yeah,
you all the
because
time.
the attention span, I believe, each
yeah,
generation gets
the-
shorter.
This latest generation is nothing but 4-minute sound bits. It's,
Yeah.
what can I get in 4 minutes and where can I find the next 4 minutes? We're living with blinders on. It amazes me sometimes.
Unfortunately, technology has cultivated that type of society because of that's how with social media, right? Everybody wants everything instant,
Right.
so it's just part of.
So that's, I tend to write, that's why I tend to write my books that encourage the person to keep reading. I don't like to write long chapters. I like space between my writing. I like to leave a cliffhanger at the end of the chapter to make the reader want to go to the next chapter.
Yes, yes.
And in fact, on one of my other books, I left a cliffhanger at the end of the book that I received so much response saying, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that. I mean, you ended this series with a cliffhanger. You got to finish this. So I now have gone to write. I'm currently writing a book to solve the cliffhanger on my last book. So it's amazing.
How many books have you written?
Written or published?
Or published, I should say.
10.
10 published books. Okay.
I've written 16.
Oh, okay. So are you in the process of
Those
getting
are
them?
all in
In the process
the
of
process. My wife Christine is the editor, so it's, it averages about one a year because it takes way the heck longer time to edit than it does to write it. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
it takes about 5 weeks to write it and about a year to edit. So,
But that's good. You have teamwork, working together. Make
yeah, so
teamwork.
I've got 6 more books in the works. And one of those books is a completely different genre that I haven't even written yet. It's a historical fiction. So,
Oh, nice.
Wow, amazing.
So there's a section in the back of the book that talks about what different people are doing. So doing now after the story, after the book. And so clearly this is based upon real events, even if it's not talking about those real events and the detail of those events, right? So how did, so where did some of these stories come from, right? Like the storylines in them, there were people that you must have had contact with that provided some of that
Okay.
information.
the original writer of the screenplay, Rose Warner,
Okay.
had all the contact, she did all the contact information and got the basic incidences of what happens in the book. She created the characters, because I took all the characters from the screenplay. And the screenplay was based on what she learned from what the people experienced and how they experienced it. So what I did is I took that screenplay and expanded, because screenplay doesn't have the backstory. Doesn't have the backstory of the characters, doesn't have, where they came
Right.
from, how they got here,
Sure. what
what happened in between scene 1 and scene 4. So I expanded the 80-page, 90-page screenplay to the 250-page book. So it's my experience in writing, I would guess, that really expanded that storyline. I mean, like I say, the voices in my head never stop. So it's.
So she must have been passionate about this.
Oh, she was very passionate. She was very passionate about human trafficking. She was very passionate about the corrupt judicial system and that perpetuates human trafficking. And like I said, she really wanted Ashton Kutcher to get this movie out. Fortunately, that didn't happen.
So you're helping her leave the legacy of
We're
it.
helping
So,
her lead the legacy.
yeah, it is
right.
a beautiful thing for you to be able to do that, because it sounds like something like that, to get that intel and to want to do something about it, that's labor of love, you
Yeah.
know. So
I don't know how long it took her to get all the information. I know she was talking about that for years, that she wanted to do that,
wow,
that she was compiling information,
sure.
and unfortunately her life was cut short, and now we're just trying to bring her legacy to the forefront.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's such a powerful thing and such a beautiful thing at the same time, and it's almost a contradiction to call it a beautiful thing when it's exposing such ugliness in the world. But it's beautiful in the sense that of what's behind it, the beauty of the caring, of the wanting to see this change and shift and basically be brought to an end.
Yeah, you got to bring things to light so people can. You got to expose the light, right?
You have to expose it
You have
to let
to.
people know what's going on,
Yes.
so they can end it.
So Frank, through the course of writing the novel, like, what's the most memorable moment for you in terms of your experience of doing the writing? Like, what stands out for you in terms of your own experience as the author?
With this book,
Yeah, of the novel, yeah.
the the fallacy and corruption in the judicial system, which
Wow.
I didn't really, you look at a judge and you say, well, he's a judge, nothing's gonna happen there. I mean, he's there for us, he's there to
Right.
protect us. And then it comes to light that, yeah, well, it's because you have a judge and you may have a jury, you may have a lawyer, you may not get justice, because if corruption, if the judge is corrupt and he's using his bench to forward his corruption, it's almost impossible to be caught. And that's what struck me the most in this story, that how any judge doing anything like this can happen, and we would never know. We unless it's exposed. But if
Right.
there's too many people that are in a powerful position behind that judge, it may never get exposed.
Right.
And that's the other problem.
Yeah, it's like they insulate themselves with powerful people all around, above and below.
Right, so if there's all these
Right.
powerful people involved,
And we, the people, have the power, right? We, as citizens, when we decide that each one of us are going to take a stand and do something about it, That's the only time I think.
That's the only time.
things are gonna
We, the
change.
people, have to, because the media isn't going to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
The politicians aren't going to do it. The police are handcuffed a lot of times. They can't do it. So unless the people are involved and the people know what's going on,
Right.
and then they can put the pressure on to have it done, nothing's going to get done.
That's why your book is so important, so people can read it, get an idea of what's going on, and educate
And
themselves.
that's to
'Cause
educate themselves.
There's no one
Because
going to learn it
The
anywhere
government's
else.
not going to educate you.
Oh.
The media's not going to educate you. Nobody's going to educate you. You're going to have to educate yourself. They're not going to tell you this in schools, even though Broward County is trying to bring awareness to human trafficking. But
Really? I
you
didn't.
know, that's. You
Well,
know,
and that number is so large that this can't be one of those issues where people say, oh, well, that happens to other people, but it wouldn't affect me.
no, it
and
can
so-
happen to anybody.
Right, that's why, exactly, and even if it doesn't affect you in your own family, it affects people you know, it affects other people that your kids know,
Absolutely.
and creates that whole environment. So it's really important that if you're watching our show right now, that you buy the book, that you read it, that you support what Frank is up to here with it, because literally we are all involved in this whether we want to be or not.
Yes.
So Frank, what's next for you? What would you like to share with us about what's coming up next?
Well, I'm currently writing another novel to end my sci-fi trilogy, which now will be 4 books.
What's the name
in
of
other
it?
words,
What is the name of it?
The book I'm writing now, Samael of Sarah.
Oh, okay.
If you do some research on who Samael is, and do some research on Lilith, which is the other character in the book, those were fallen angels. So it proceeds. It's a faith-based science fiction, so it's good against evil, and it's basically there's going to be a fight, and you got to see who wins.
So what about with Stuck in Traffic, the novel, the screenplay? Is there anything that people can do to support you in this right now? Like what could
Stuck
people?
in Traffic screenplay?
Yeah,
buy the book.
getting it,
Yeah.
getting it out there.
Get it out there. Yeah. Let your people know.
Yes, that's our
you know,
mission.
as more people get to see the book, as more people learn about it, it gets publicized, and maybe the right person sitting in the right desk at a right corporation will look at it and say, hey, we need to do this. Yeah. My books are on Amazon. Stuck in Traffic right now is listed on Amazon at a reduced price. So you can go on, just Google search my name, Frank A. Ruffolo, on Amazon, and my books come up. I have 2 books that are at reduced price, and they make great holiday gifts.
Yeah.
If they want to contact me for autographed copies, you can contact me via email, Frank A. Ruffolo. Be sure you put the A in there, at gmail.com, and I can give them details how they can get the books autographed.
Okay, well that's terrific, and we are so grateful that you just came on our show and
Well, I'm so
shared
grateful
this
that you have me here.
your book and
Thank
the
you.
message behind it, and how we can all play a role in this, and you know, in terms of you know, what are your thoughts, Louise? Like as we wrap this up.
I want to, as contributes to the world, that's our mission, is we want to help people to elevate their message. So really what we want to do is for everybody to buy the book, learn what's going on, take action, do something. I know Senator Chris Smith of New Jersey is a champion for human rights for children. I've met him directly. So buy the book and continue to share that message with the world. So thank
Please,
you
thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
next week, who do we have as our guest?
So next week we have Josmar Tejeda,
Yep.
who's written a couple different books. So he will be here, and he's a firecracker. He's got a lot of information on marketing and a lot of different things that he's written about. So
Yeah, and if you're an author, if you're a writer, the work doesn't end when you publish the book. 'Cause
Yeah.
then you have to market it.
Yes, that's the
And
beginning.
that's a whole nother world to get into.
Yeah.
So, but as always, we really appreciate your joining us. Feel free to leave us a message
Yeah.
on the Editor's Desk Facebook page. We'll get back to you. And
See you next week. Thank you so much.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Imagine rediscovering a past life.
Now imagine finding the person you shared it with.
And I just told all my friends, I'm like, you guys have to read this because I can't put it down. And I have not even gotten to the half of the book yet.
We are Lynn Everard and Louise Gomez, and we are the authors of the book, The Reuniting of Two Past Lives and the Unveiling of the 12 Sacred Lessons.
We invite you to purchase the book and discover the magic.
Even if you have never written a book, you are still an author. In fact, we all are. In every moment, each of us is writing our own unique story that we call our lives. Because many of us are, as in the lyrics of the Dan Hill song, Sometimes When We Touch, writers still trapped within our truth. If this is you, why not start writing your thoughts in a journal? It will help you get your truth on paper and could just be the start of your own book. And don't forget to join us here every week for the next edition of The Editor's Desk.